Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Anna with Grow with Anna, and I am here today with my fiance, Jheeno. We are here today because we have a really amazing, unique, incredible story to share with you about a spiritual awakening that we both just kind of went through together, and it's amazing. I can't wait to get into it, but I did want to just talk a little bit about why there was such a big gap between my last video and this one. And honestly, it's just because I felt like there was a big gap between us that we really needed to address before I could even come on and give more of myself to all of you. So my last video was very much business tips, building your brand. You're still going to see a lot of that here, but you're also going to see a lot of spirituality and our personal development and our growth together. And I just feel so confident moving forward in what I can bring to you because of the strength in our relationship now. So I'm really excited for you to hear what we have for you. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. We are open books and we're more than happy to share anything with you. So I'm sure that whoever's been through a spiritual awakening or is in the middle of their personal development journey, I'm sure that we could all agree that there was some kind of collective awakening in 2020. And that is kind of when mine started. There was a significant situation that happened that kind of really made all of that start. And if you're okay with me sharing, in October of 2020, Gino's mom passed away, unfortunately. And it was very sudden, and a lot of things were happening all at once. And if Jheeno wants to share more after, then you can totally share more. But a week after that happened, there was like so much stress on me because he wasn't really saying anything, like not communicating with me. So
really closed off.
Yeah, I felt what he was feeling on top of what I was feeling, on top of like family things too, and 2020. So it was just a lot, and it took a toll on my body, and I was in bed for a week, and it was the most horrible thing that I would never wish it on my worst enemy. I was literally like dragging my leg, thinking like I could be paralyzed because I couldn't move. And so I was in bed for a week. He had to help me with so many things. I'm like, oh my gosh, we should not be dealing with these things until we're like 80 years old.
Yeah.
And it was so embarrassing, but it was my body telling me, at the end of the day, it was my body telling me, you're not paying attention. You're not present. You're not dealing with the emotions that you need to be dealing with. And so my body was yelling at me, and I had to listen. There was no other way out. I was in bed. I was stuck. So I knew something had to change. And every time I did something, I felt like there's more. There's more. There's more. There's more meaning to life. There's just more. And eventually I started really understanding the concept of spiritual awakening. And I was like, holy shit, I'm in one. Like, I'm in it. I'm in it right now. And I was like looking up YouTube videos, and like my body was just reacting in all kinds of crazy ways because I wasn't listening. My hives, you remember? Like, it's all a way of my body telling me to wake the fuck up, pretty much. And so there came a time where I realized, like, there were some days where Jheeno would come home. There were like 2 days that this happened, and he didn't even look at me. And I was like, something is wrong. And he wouldn't even know. He'd just like go to the room, and I'd be crying, and like
Just fall in love.
he'd have no idea because he's so in what he was going through and his mourning and his loss. And, you know, like we had more after his mom, and it was just a lot. And I'm sure you can relate. I'm sure all of us have gone through so much. But I knew that there was going to be a time and a place where Jheeno had to join me, or we would have to have a conversation because I can't keep going this way without you growing with me. And that is where a lot of Grow with Anna came from. It's I want you to grow with me. I want him to grow with me. I want us all to grow together. And so I kept trying little things here and there of like trying to just gauge where he's at. And a lot of times, like, no, he's not ready for this. Like, let's move on.
No, I remember you would come in sometimes. You'd be like, "Oh, hey, babe, I had this really big breakthrough, and this and this and this happened." I'm like, "That's cool. Yeah, sweet. I'm happy for it. Yeah." Like, but
Yeah.
obviously a different language at the time.
Completely.
Yeah.
Until it wasn't a different language. Mm-hmm. Until, like, I started mentioning things and he was more curious and he asked more questions. And I'll let Jheeno, like, kind of start, but I want to mention this, is I went to a retreat. I'm going to link everything down below because you guys need to know these people because they've changed my life.
Must.
I went to a conscious leader retreat, and Kelly Brock, she is my coach. She's also my boss. She's my mentor. And I went to that retreat in April of this year, so April 2022, and it changed my life. I came home a completely different person. I didn't even recognize myself, so I couldn't even imagine what it would be like for him. But my habits changed. I cared about myself more. I loved myself enough now, finally, to be like, this is it. I'm requesting a change from the universe, God, whatever it is that you believe. So yeah, that's when things really started changing. So now I would really love to hear what that was like for you during that time too, like even before.
So for you, this is like all happening like a year before, right? It was over the course of like a year.
2020, 2021. Yeah, I mean, even to this year, beginning of this year.
So like basically almost 2 years this for your time frame.
Yeah.
Your growth time frame before I even went to our first retreat. Right?
Yeah.
And I'll admit that in the beginning I was apprehensive, but then there were a lot of signs and signals that were like undeniable. So I would hear your conversations walking by the room. I would hear how you interact with people. I'd actually found myself subconsciously taking cues from that and like implementing that at work with my friends, like professionally and socially, and I realized a lot of positive feedback from that. Mm-hmm. So, but this whole time I didn't tell her. I thought in my head I was like, oh, she knows because she can read my mind. You know, obviously.
Because I'm at work with you and I hear the conversations.
Yeah. So, but really, it was really such a positive shift, and just to be able to benefit from that residually was amazing. And so, of course, there came a time when she was like, "Oh, would you be interested in this, or like this opportunity's coming in?" And I'm like, well, all the times before COVID that I was like, nah, next time, nah, I'll do that later or whatever. Once COVID hit, it's like, can't do anything.
Yeah.
So it's like all those no's, I'm like trying to make up for that now for myself. But also, what I saw in you, it would be stupid for me not to take that opportunity to see what it's all about.
So, the first retreat we ever went to, and the way that this even happened was crazy. But very long story short, we were invited to this retreat, like paid for, invited. And we're so freaking thankful to Svetlana and Jerremy. Like, people don't know that, but it was their way of working with the universe to be like, you're meant to be here. And that within itself was just like, oh my God. So I told him, I was like, we would be stupid not to go. We would just be denying the universe and it would be terrible. So yeah, that was the first retreat we went to. So you go first because it was amazing for you.
On top of it being paid for by Jerremy and Svet, I also use all my travel points, so that was all free too. So
Nice.
there you go, little financial plug. So
please contact Jheeno for it. No, I'm just kidding.
Full disclosure, I'm not a financial advisor. Everything I say is my opinion.
Don't put that in there.
Cut. So it's funny because this opportunity came up, and she told me about it. But at the time we had a conversation, I heard one thing, and she actually said another. Yeah, so she told me that we were gonna go on this trip, that they gifted it to us, and that it's gonna be a really great experience. I was like, oh yeah, I'm down. Let's go. Let's do it. And then I went around.
No.
What?
No, it wasn't just like, yeah, I'm down. Let's do it. At first, you were like, I told you it's called Divine Relationships Retreat. And I told you that. You're like, yeah, I'm not really interested in that.
But I said I'll go.
You said yes. He said he'll go.
Yeah.
So he was open.
I'm not really.
Would you be interested in going? He's like, not really, but I'll go.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, okay, but so you're saying there's a chance.
Yeah, I didn't say no. And like, I'm learning more and more often now that, things that are outside of my comfort zone, things that I know the least about, that's where I'm going to learn the most, right?
Yes.
So.
That is such an important thing. Like, I hope you really heard that, because that's the first step to really changing your life, is to have an open mind.
So when we were going to this trip, I formulated this scenario in my head. So at work, I started repeating this basically delusion that we were going to a convention. There's going to be like hundreds of people there, name tags. It was probably going to be at a convention center. Walk in, there's going to be some guest speakers. Yeah, we're going to learn a lot, bro. Networking, yeah.
Yeah, he was like, babe, we're going to network, huh? And I was like, yeah, kind of.
And I told so many people at work, and I told all the homies, and then I started believing it. I don't know at what point.
So sure.
Yeah, I was so sure of it. And then the night before we're packing, I was like, oh, hey, babe, so how many people are going to this convention? And she's like, or the retreat, sorry. How many people are going to the retreat? And she said, oh, let me see how many people are on the chat. Oh, 13 people. 13 people? What do you mean? 13...
You said 13 people or 13 couples?
Yeah, 13 couples.
It's still nowhere near convention.
No,
but somehow 13 couples would have been better.
She's like, there's a few couples, but some single people. I'm like, that sounds really intimate, dude.
Like, yeah, it is.
And so I stopped folding my clothes, and I'm like, and I felt that resistance. I was like, well, it's intimate. I don't know if you alert, red flag, da da da. Yeah, it's like
feelings.
Yeah, and so, but I caught myself. I'm like, no, we're already in it. We got the tickets. We're going. It's gonna be a new experience. I'm excited. Let's get it. So, the thoughts in my mind on the way to the trip, and not really being so sure because it's such a new experience, so outside of my comfort zone, and I really knew nothing about. Kind of going in blind, half nervousness and half excitement, because at the very least I was gonna learn something. And that was my goal, was to learn something new. Because if I caught myself in whatever negative thoughts, then it would spiral. So, make the best of it. And so, really, really unsure of what we were gonna see and experience. And once we got there, Nashville was so beautiful. I mean, it was like fall, and leaves changing color, orange, red, yellow, beautiful weather.
So many trees.
No drought.
Yeah, not like California. It's not brown over there, okay? Wait, can I just say something really quick? Because I want you to continue, but I have to say the universe is so wonderful because everything from the moment we left our house to the moment we got there, everything was smooth AF. Like, we left the house on time, we parked, like, our flight was totally fine, we had a connecting flight, everything was great, we had time for a meal. And then we got there, they told us that they didn't have any rental cars left, and the chick hooked us up and she got us the last one pretty much, and
Yeah,
they
someone
also upgraded our
canceled.
car.
Yeah, they canceled, and so they ended up upgrading us to that car for the cheaper price that we had locked it in at.
Like, you
And
can't deny
yeah,
that we're so supported. Like, it was just so cool.
and I was checking my points because I was like, oh,
Oh
I had
yeah,
bled out all of my points, and I looked in there, and I was like, all of a sudden, I had like 2,000 points just for a rental car. I was like, what? And then only ended up
it was
having to
wild.
use like I don't know, like 300 or something ridiculously low. And I was like, all right, there, it's good. We didn't have to pay for that
We
either.
didn't have to pay. Like, are you kidding me right now? I don't know. That was just really
Yeah,
cool, and I was like, we're meant to be here
yeah.
for sure.
I remember the chick pulling up in the Challenger, and she's like, "Oh, here's your car," and I'm like, "Oh, Challenger." She's like, "Oh, I could return it if you want." I'm like, "No, no, no, this is good. This is good. Yeah, thank you.
We'll take
Appreciate you.
it.
We'll take it."
So we check in, and she's like telling us, "Oh, it'd be better if you park in the back. You could do the last door, and you'll be close to your room." Yada da da. We're like, "Thank you. Like, great tip." So we go park there, and the door is locked. Like, it's jammed. It's not opening. And I was like, oh, "Okay, we're like human. Something went wrong. This is cool. This is great, you know." But we also lost our streak, so that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, this guy comes. Like, I guess he was trying the door and he went to the next and he opened the door for us as we were walking away. So I'm like, oh my God, okay. We're still like hella supported. Go to the room, we put our stuff down, and then we go to this restaurant called Sunda. And my friend recommended for us to go there. Some of the coolest
So good.
people
Yeah.
that like waited on us. The food was excellent, but one of the waitresses there was from Oakland. We're like, what the heck? Like, we're both Oakland, for those of you that don't know, is very close to here. It's all in the Bay Area in California. And she is just the best. I mean, our waiter is really great too, and he's super nice and like just really good people. Like, you could just feel
The
the
vibes.
vibe
Yeah.
in Nashville. Like, people are so nice.
Wholesome Southern hospitality. Yeah.
Yeah. And that the waitress, hand writes down a list of places for us to go and visit. And I'm just like, I don't know. It's just good vibes all around.
And she knew all the spots because she's a musician out there. That's why she moved out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was so nice of her. So immediately once we got there, it was all great. It was smooth. And then the next day is when we had a little bit of time to ourselves, and you know, we did touristy things, and then that was the first day of the retreat. So I want you to say, like, what did you feel like going in there, first of all, or like the moment we pulled up?
So, yeah, first of all, we're pulling up. We're driving through this area in Nashville. I forget what it's called, but basically we take a right turn from the interstate, and um, all the land starts to open up, and then you see like just like acres of land and then mansions sitting in the middle, and you're just driving through these rolling hills, and there's like cobblestone, like old English, all types of like archways and columns. It's pretty
It's
wild.
like those car commercials where people are
Yeah.
just like in the forest.
It was
It's so cool.
beautiful, yeah. And so we get there and we come up and we pull up to their house, and it's just like it's just protruding out of the hills and the forestry. It just looks like a beautiful mansion.
Yeah.
Um, and their driveway curves up, and then we all pull up, and then we see a couple other folks coming out of their cars, and then we make our way up and around, and then they actually had us all meet around the back of their house, which they remodeled their basement as like this really cool, um, the most comforting kind of lounge area for like meditation. It was very welcoming.
It's fat too. Like the size of their basement is the size of our house.
Their basement is
It's
our
so
house.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
It's nice.
yeah.
It's like equipped with
Like.
everything. There's two bathrooms down there. Whatever. Anyways, it doesn't really matter.
Hmm.
It was just really, really nice and super welcoming. And yeah, then we like got into it
I just felt
immediately.
I felt a lot of warmth from Jeremy and Svet too.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like so welcoming and open arms,
Mm-hmm.
and it's weird too because like I don't know if it was just nervousness being around new people and being in a strange place, but part of me too is like um, I could almost see some people in different shades or different places in their life. But it was like something that I'm more acute to now. But before I was just like, it's probably nothing. Things I would ignore, signs and vibes signals that I would ignore before.
So cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'd say for one of my biggest takeaways with like everything that Jeremy and Svet had meticulously kind of cultivated in our 3 day retreat there. Everything was so intentional. The every minute, every word they said, the meals that we had together. Out of all of that, I'd say one of the most impactful exercises we did was like having my first meditation. That was the first actual meditation that I sat there and did it did it in a group setting. Um,
And he
and
was spoiled. Like everyone that's
yeah.
been through like meditations or anything like that, they all made it very clear to him like you were spoiled. It was so amazing, so intimate, so safe, just like I don't know. He's just so lucky to have been
Yeah,
there.
they really set the tone, and they really really allowed us to do exercise that made us look introspectively, like really deeply. And that was the first time that I was ever able to start to do that. I'm not saying that I was able to do that immediately, like at 100%. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
there's some resistance there. There's a lot of barriers, I guess, layers to peel back. But they gave me the tools and the coaching to be able to do that. And one of my biggest takeaways from that exercise was really just being able to forgive my parents for what I didn't like that about my experience growing up, and what they did and what they didn't do, but also to actually thank them too, because at the end of the day, just like all of our parents, whether they were there or not, they cared for us the best way they knew how,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if I they helped me realize that, and maybe to some people that's apparent, but for me it was not. That was not something that I looked at. That's not something that really crossed my mind. It was really better to just kind of like package up, put deep down, and ignore. But I realized that I would have held on to that until the day that I died. And so,
Wow.
with yeah, through what I learned with Jeremy and Svet, I was able to like pull those lead daggers out of my heart. And I'm not saying I'm fixed, but now I know I have the tools and I can implement the systems needed to help me to continue to heal. And that's like a polar shift, really. So
I'm so
yeah,
proud of you.
yeah.
That's huge because people just, yeah, like you said, you would have died with that. And people would go their whole lives just ignoring, avoiding, suppressing, like it's really sad when you think about it. If you just allow yourself to open up and feel these things, so much could change.
Yeah, I learned how to be more transparent and vulnerable and right like gentlemen, right? So we're subliminally taught to that this is weak or that this is not acceptable or it's not manly or whatever it is, whatever those archaic kind of morals were and systems were. It doesn't, just because that was passed down onto us doesn't mean we have the choice not to perpetuate that. We can't we can improve, but we can also like have a total shift and have it be amazing, right? We can plant our own seeds instead of work with the seeds we were given. We can design our life, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. What was your favorite? So that's your top takeaway. What was your favorite activity?
My favorite activity was definitely what Jerremy had set up for us. I don't want to go
I
into
know.
detail, but just in case you guys are gonna go, but really, like, all I could say is to keep it short and sweet. Jerremy set up this whole experience for us gentlemen, and this is the crazy part. There's 13 people there, right? Only the ratio is 5 dudes, 5 men, and the rest were women. I was like, there's already a problem there, you know? And
Yeah.
so, and everyone else there, except for one gentleman, was there because of their significant other.
Mm-hmm.
You know, our significant others had um, the courage to look and ask questions and find outlets like this. Um,
And put our foot down and be like, we're going.
right. And like, to be honest, if I was like left to my own accord, then I probably would have been like, no, I don't need that. Who needs that? What do you need that for? You know, I'm a man. You know, so
Yeah. And now look at your life. Like,
yeah. And that's this. There we go. And that's what I learned from what Jerremy was set up for us. It was the exercise that he made us do, the experiences that he gave to us, helped me for the first time feel like a real man. It was like a rite of passage, and it's kind of like an experience that's not really facilitated in our everyday lives unless you're like in professional sports or the military. And you know, that ratio is off because I feel like most of us gentlemen need to learn these type of values. You know, spirituality, vulnerability, being transparent, and not seeing it as a weakness. You know, because um, hurt people.
mm-hmm.
And what I learned from Jerremy and Svet is if you heal the men in the world, then you heal the world. Because how many of our world leaders, our politicians, and people in power are operating from trauma or unideal sort of circumstance, right? Like
Yeah.
hurt people hurting people. So,
Yeah.
and it all starts with conversations like this,
Mm-hmm.
experiences like that. People that are dedicating their lives to sharing this knowledge and experience with others and facilitating those systems for us to like replicate that and share that with others. So
Yeah. Yeah.
really powerful stuff.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that was my top takeaway is how can Jheeno and I use what we just went through to go out and share it. And like that's that I envision this. You could say I manifested this. Like I want to use social media and like whatever we can use in order to raise consciousness and raise awareness to like there's another way that you could be living your life. You know, like we spent a lot of our lives, you know, well into our 20s just doing things because we had to do them, not because we wanted to. And there's purpose to all of our lives, your life, our lives. Um, and it's up to us to try and figure that out and to help each other really evolve and
Mm-hmm.
grow into who we're meant to be so that we could keep helping our communities. Um,
Really try, like really trying to emphasize um, helping each other raise that collective consciousness, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we're all in that abundance mindset, if we're all not thinking of all the limitations, not thinking of the negative, and we can try to uplift each other,
Yeah.
um, that can really raise the bar for society as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's really, I think, is a really invaluable thing for us to have and have access to.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. So I do want to share my favorite activity because it was wild, and trust me, for everyone it's going to be different. So I'm not oversharing here. While the gentlemen were out doing whatever they needed to do, the women stayed at Jerremy and Svetlana's house, and we did an exercise really digging deep into what we call our dark feminine. And I could make like a whole video about that. So if you want to know more about that, let me know. But um, we pretty much stayed and we tapped into our traumas, our fears, things that we haven't healed from. And we really had to dig deep into that. Um, and it was wild, like to hear we're in a room filled with women collectively yelling, crying, screaming, like feeling each other. You could feel the vibration of, we were all spread out, but you could feel the vibration of the woman next to you because we're all feeling this hurt. And I have like goosebumps thinking about it now because it's crazy. But the importance of digging into that is so that you can see that side and be thankful for your light too, your divine self, right? And so we really tapped into that, and I really understood after that, after them explaining what they went through, what we went through. It's just a real deep understanding of divinity and the collective, and how it's so important for us to heal ourselves so that we could heal each other, because everything happens in relationship with other people. So yeah, it was just incredible.
If I could add to that, there was a portion where everyone was sharing, and there was an exercise about our what did you like about your mom? What did you like
Oh
about your
yeah.
dad? And what do you dislike about your mom? What do you dislike about your dad? And then after everyone shared, I'll just skip forward a little bit. There was like this kind of statistic that they were seeing that like with men, they had a lot they had a lot less bad things to say about their mom and a lot more bad things to say about their dad. And the reverse was for women too.
Mm-hmm.
And so the importance of both roles being there, or not, the impact of that one not being there for the other,
Yeah.
that was really powerful. And when everyone was sharing, I was writing down my pros and cons about each parent, and I kind of got stuck because I never really thought of it like that before and that deeply. And so I thought I filled it out to the best that I could. Well, I did. And it wasn't until everybody started sharing and they started like unlocking these things for me, like, oh crap, that applies to me. That affected me.
Yeah.
Like, like men, women sharing their own different like point of views. And I'm like, no, that's the experience that I had. But I was just so closed off. And so this was such a new experience for me. I couldn't even get down and dig deep down and pull that out because
Yeah.
it was so far from anything I was thinking of. And so that's what I mean by collective consciousness, is for everyone to share and then for everyone to learn through each other's experiences. That was really powerful because I wouldn't have been able to do that by myself in a solo setting because
Mm-hmm.
each person has their own experience, but learning
Yeah.
from everyone else's experience, that helps a lot too. It's like it's a compounding effect,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And just think about it. I was reading a book, and also my mentor says this too, but A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. she mentions how, like, collectively, again, collective consciousness, like you're talking about, we're all like spokes on a wheel. We all are in the center of, and we're all the same, right? Collectively, but we're also very different. We're individual, but we all come together, and that's why this whole relationship piece is so crucial. Like, it doesn't matter whether it's an intimate relationship or it's a relationship with your family or friends. It's really important to carry on these kinds of conversations because that's when true healing starts. So, yeah, that was just the first retreat, and I'm like, holy shit, we have so much more to go. But that was the catalyst for the next retreat. And I feel like, yes, we gained so much from it and it was a beautiful experience. But I think together, that first retreat is where like 80% of our growth came from. It was a lot.
That was really like shedding a cocoon
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah, that was a lot.
Yeah, and then just becoming like pretty much raw and so sensitive to like everything, like just this hyper awareness to everything that's going on around me. Like it was like wearing goggles, like shaded goggles,
Yeah.
my whole life, and then taking it off and like, what? This is where we're at right now.
Yeah.
This is where we're living. This is the like it was like looking through the fourth dimension. I don't even know. It sounds really woo, but it's really hard
But
to
it
explain
is.
until
We're here
you.
for it.
Yeah, and it's just crazy because there's so many aspects in my life where it's a near miss. Like I like computers, right? And it's like, oh, it's, for a lot of people, they look at computers, they're like, oh, that's too complicated. I don't need that. Why do I need that? Da da da. And then I have a very mechanical mind, a logical mind. I like to break it down, put it back together, figure it out, and like a person made this, so
Yeah.
that means I can figure it out too. But when I apply that to what I care about, it's no wonder that I didn't have any of this knowledge and skill in like spirituality, my own trauma, because I didn't ever look at it that way. I never looked at it like something that I could analyze, uh, you know, uh, decompartmentalize, break down, understand different facets, and then just catalyze everything, crystallize everything. And then
That's so
it
cool.
makes it, yeah. And so those are the tools. That's the skills. That's the
Wow.
knowledge that they give us. Just like you go to college and you learn your major, these people dedicated their lives to these facets, and that's the value we got from them.
Yes.
And whatever they charge, I would pay double, triple that,
Yeah.
because that's how much value I got from it.
100%.
Really.
Yeah.
Hit the link down below. Trying to go again.
Shameless plug. No, but seriously, we will be linking everything for you because they deserve so much recognition and they deserve more people to know them because of the work that they do. They're just incredible humans.
Yeah, so just adding to the Divine Relationships retreat with Svet and Jerremy, they taught us a lot about like addressing our past trauma, inner child work. Through those exercises, I was able to learn that, for example, one of my childhood traumas that I was operating from was like an experience with my dad. There's a lot of times that my homies or like other friends would be like, "Oh, let's go fishing. You down to go fishing?" I'm like, "Nah, I don't fish. That's not my thing. I don't fish." And that was always my default reaction if anybody wanted to fish with me. And then like in retrospect, I was kind of like stealing that experience away from not only myself but my friends, right? Like connecting more, building onto that, like building that brotherhood more. But the reason why I would say that, I realized, is because I used to fish with my dad, and then but there is an experience there where like that was traumatizing for me because my dad didn't say some he said some very not nice things, When I tried to toss the fish back and stuff like that, I just cared about the fish, and um, he was just acting out of whatever frustration, and I realize that now. But to know, it's really powerful to know and analyze and see what that was for me, and to realize like that shouldn't affect. It did affect who I am today to a point, but now that I know, I can implement systems to change that, right? Because that's not ideal for me, and I realize that, right? I don't want to, like, how many of us operate in that way where that past trauma is dictating our decisions we make today, and it may seem little, but it could be a huge ripple effect, right? Like, what if there's that? If I still held on to that, what if there was that workplace connection that really could have gotten me the promotion I wanted, or really like, or even so like work at another place, and that person was like, "Hey, you want to fish sometime?" And then that would really hurt me if I was like, "Nah, fishing's not my thing," and then fishing's their thing,
Yeah.
right? So I'm like, I'm taking that away. I'm allowing that to be a barrier,
Yeah.
right? So what may seem small actually isn't, because I'm 30 now, and that was still affecting my decisions.
Right. And when do you have your earliest memory of going fishing with your dad?
When I was like probably 8 or 9, so I was like holding on to that
Isn't
for
that
22 years.
wild?
Like, that's ridiculous. That's really silly if you think about it.
Yeah.
But I was allowing myself to do that because I didn't know that it could be any different.
Yes.
So that was really big, and yeah. So to be able to, it's a really important skill for us to look introspectively, find out what that is for us, unpack that. I was like, okay, does this align with my ideal life?
Yeah.
More likely, more often than not, it's probably not. And so what can I do to work myself through it and out of it?
So, okay, because I know there's going to be some people listening like, okay, but what do I do? Like, they don't know where to start. So what would be like some, like 2 or 3 tips that you could give people that if they want to start doing that work, if they want to start looking introspectively, what can they do to move forward?
I think for me, in my mind, whenever I thought of trauma like that, I usually look at it, allow it to affect my emotions, and then my decision in that became stronger. So that's why I held on to it for 22 years. But the change was when I saw it, and I saw how it was making me feel, and then I looked at basically how long that I hold on to it for. Like, what are the signs? Why am I actually holding on to it? Okay, now I know why I'm holding on to it, and like, is that how I really want to be? And I think no, because if I really think about it, like, why would I take that? Why would I say no to that in the future and take that experience away from not only myself but my relationships in the future?
Yeah. So asking yourself powerful questions.
Yes, powerful questions, and really trying to, instead of stopping at that first step, like, oh, I remember this, that sucked, leave it at that. Oh, I remember this, it sucked. Why did it suck, and why do I still hold on to that? What can I do differently so that it aligns with who I want to be, my best self?
So good.
I think that's the best way for me. It's like instead of like, if you look at it, instead of fueling the fire, now it's like a safety net, and then I could bounce back, and I can grow from it rather than fester in it.
Yeah. So now, having learned everything that you learned at the Divine Relationships Retreat, then we went to the Love Summit on the Ariel BVI. Beautiful private island that is changing lives. That's the island that I went to back in April, the retreat that I went to in April. So now, learning what you learned at the first retreat, how did that help you take in what happened at the Love Summit?
My first thought is like your state of mind when you came back from BVI, and like to see everyone around you still doing the same thing in the same motions in the same systems, and just like how maybe partly lonely that felt, being like knowing what you knew, and having that experience and then seeing around. But I'm grateful and I'm happy that you're patient and you shared that with me and gave me the opportunity to do that too. Because I know initially it was supposed to be just Love Summit BVI, and then
Yeah.
and divine relationships came up, and rightly so. The cosmos said, "You guys get a double dub, double win." So I'll take it. Knowing what I knew from, I'm so grateful that we went to divine relationships, because that really just helped me shed my husk, my cocoon, all those like
Yeah.
archaic values, morals, and I guess mentality. And then that really set the tone for me to be really accepting, even more open, like exponentially more open and sensitive. And I knew that my goal, in comparison to divine relationships, I learned a lot there. I didn't share too much. And then now going into Love Summit, I wanted to share more, be vulnerable more, and be that,
Set the example.
and engage more, and yeah, and set that example. And lo and behold, when we get to Love Summit, 5 gentlemen,
Again.
13 people, 5 gentlemen, the rest are queens. And so my goal there was to share, be vulnerable, transparent, so that maybe I could impact one of the other gentlemen there, and anyone there. I didn't really. My focus on gentlemen is because of my experience at Divine Relationships and how important it was to have other male mentors, role models that were outside of my initial circle,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like leaps and bounds of learning there. And I'd say there was a scenario where we were sharing around the table, and I just had this feeling, and I wanted to bring it up, and I knew that the opportunity would pass, and then it would be moot. So I said, hey, gentlemen, my name is Jheeno Escueta. This is my lovely fiance, Anna Maria, and, we're from the Bay Area. And I just wanted to say that it's really important for us to engage and be transparent, be vulnerable, so that we can learn from each other. And later on in that retreat, I shared something that I thought would impact. During one of our I guess presentations at dinner.
We were sharing like top takeaways.
Yeah, we would share our top takeaways at dinner, and there was something that I wanted to share with everyone. And it's a scenario that Anna and I had before, where she's in this like higher consciousness. She's doing this inner work, and there was that time where I had just lost my mom, and then I had just lost my friend Jim, and then so for a while, like I didn't have a job, and I was like searching, but I was also depressed, and like the way I dealt with that was like I just hide away and just like be closed off, and I didn't have the capacity to hear what she was really trying to say at the time. And I just got hired at Tesla, got my new job, and I was happy about that. Things are looking good, have something else to focus on. And she came into the room one day and she's like, "Hey, babe, I'm just wondering, I'm glad you got your job at Tesla."
We were at the island, and
Yeah.
yeah, like we were just having conversation, and yeah, you say it in your
Yeah.
perspective.
You were saying, like, oh, now that you got your job at Tesla, like, what's next? Like, what are your goals? And um, what do you have planned? And my initial reaction was like, when I heard those words, I was like, what the heck? Like, this is not good enough. I just got the job. Like, what else do you want? Like, what? Like, I'm supposed to be looking 10 steps ahead. Like, I just went through all this. I got the job. Things are looking good. Like, what else? Like, it's not enough. It's never enough. What am I doing wrong? Why are you doing this to me? And then it's just like a spiral. And I really let it get to me because even though that was not her intention, that's what I heard. Unfortunately, because I didn't have the capacity to hear where she was coming from or what she meant or her intentions. Um, and so,
And that was hard too for me. Like, I'm starting to tear up, like, thinking about that because it was so not that. Like, it was so not me trying to make him feel less than, or like, well, you got the job, so now what are you going to do? Like, no, it's like, you must feel so excited. Like, you have this job that you've been wanting for such a long time. And when you are financially taken care of, that is something, like, it's such a weight off your shoulders and your mind that now you're open to seeing and thinking about other things. But like money, and it's such a taboo topic, but you feel so suppressed and you feel like your light is so dim when you have to worry about money. And now that he landed something, and something that he loves and enjoys, now I'm just thinking like, oh, you must be so open and like ready to goal set for your next thing. But that's also my bad for not articulating it well, and also two, not saying that I'm proud of him for getting the job. Of course I did at some point, but in that specific conversation, not saying I'm so proud that you have this job, not articulating well that,
your intentions.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like,
But I also just really, I wasn't going to hear it another way. I was
yeah,
only going to be able to hear it the best way Jheeno could at that time, at my mind state, at my consciousness.
yeah, yeah,
So, having just gone through all that trauma and everything like that, not really properly dealing with it, working through it, and just kind of distracting, and then getting the job, and like just setting other goals, just
going through the
going through
motions.
the motions. And then so, my like cognitive stamina was like negative, negative, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it wasn't until we did divine relation, like leading up, like little chips. I was chipping away at it.
Mm-hmm.
I was chipping away at my cognitive stamina and like increasing a little more. But until my eyes were open, I saw through a new lens and I learned all of this new nomenclature, these skills, these systems. That's when I really realized, I was like, holy crap! I thought about it back then. Again, that same scenario. I was like, no, I exactly know where you're coming from now,
Yeah.
but I couldn't then. So it was a really good conversation piece to be around, because that experience, like how many other folks go through that, right? And so going back to my point earlier, bringing it back at as our takeaway from the retreat,
Mm-hmm.
everyone completed their shares and we finished dinner and we were all heading back to our rooms. And all of a sudden, I get this tap on my shoulder, like hand on my shoulder, and I turn, and it's Matt. And he's
And
like,
as you get that, I get a kiss at the top of my head from Melissa.
wow,
Yeah,
wow.
it's crazy. Yeah, so keep going.
And Matt was just like so sincere. He was like looking like he was in it, and he was like, "Hey, bro, I just want to thank you, bro. Like that, when you said that," and then he started tearing up, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Damn, like I did the right thing," because he was like, "There's so many times where my wife would try to have that conversation or try to see what's going on with me or see my new goals, and I couldn't hear it that way. I
Mm-hmm.
thought she was trying to start an argument, and it would really affect her, myself, and my kids because I didn't know how to deal with it. I would go out to the shop in the barn, and I would work on whatever carpentry, whatever I would distract." And my kids would be like, "What's wrong with dad? What's wrong with dad?" And I wasn't present. I wasn't there, and it was all, and so like a lot of that was me, and and now I realize where she's coming from, and then and learning all this with you guys, and I was like, dude, that was my goal.
That's it.
That was it right there.
Yeah.
And I'm just so glad that was confirmation. Like we have to be engaged in this
Yeah.
type of experience, this spiritual kind of learning, not even just spiritual, but emotional, love,
development.
interpersonal, yeah, love, all of it.
Yes.
Because how much of us focus on the finances, the career, the car, all of these physical things, and you implement these systems to try to improve in all those things, but it's incomplete. It's not full circle, because what about the emotional? What about the spiritual? What about the
Yes.
the love and relationships? Not just in your significant other, but in your friendships and your family. Like, it just leveling up the skills in all of these facets permeate through everything else.
Yeah.
And it's really powerful when you can see full circle and implement these systems to really grow
Yeah.
and improve each day, each hour, each minute, each interaction you have. Even at work, like I would tell my coworkers, like, how can you inspire someone today? How can you help someone today?
That.
How can you teach someone today? And how can you help them be that for someone else?
Take notes. Those are good questions to ask yourself on a daily basis. Like, just journal out. Yeah, all those questions are really good. How can you be of service to someone else in your day? When you start being of service and of value to other people, you start learning more about yourself. And then you could give that love back to yourself too.
Yeah, again, it's a ripple effect, right? That's like, I'm that guy that I'm like, hey, how's it going, my G? How's it going? Happy Friday. Hey, have a good shift, And then when I was trying my best, and even on my worst day, right? I'll admit, on my worst day, I wasn't trying the best that I could, and I was like, slugging through, kind of just like, just chugging along, and then all of a sudden, that first associate, hey, Jheeno, how's it going? Happy Friday, man. Have a good shift. And then the second associate, hey, bro, happy Friday. I was like, I didn't even know it was Friday. And then like everybody, and like 20 associates later, like, oh, wow. Like, I feel like they're reciprocating that because I did that for them before. And then that helps me on my worst day. 100%. So it's like full circle again. And I didn't even realize until like after the fact.
Later, yeah.
So.
It's so cool.
It's powerful, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so for me, like really quick, because we'll talk more about this part later, but for me, it was being able to sit down with the owner of the island. First of all, she's there through the whole thing. First of all, she's female, so can we please like give that a moment, because I feel like that's just unheard of. She's 34, so she's young as hell, and she is giving private islands like a new identity. It's the island that's changing people, changing their lives, changing the way that they show up. And there's these different summits, different retreats that you can go to depending on what you're really wanting and needing. And so anyways, we got to sit with her in a one-on-one, and we got to pretty much make a plan for our lives. And there's so much more meaning. Like, a relationship is a partnership, and I've always wanted that and craved that, and I feel like we're just beginning.
10 years later?
12, but who's counting?
Carry the 2 minus the...
So, anyways.
Forget.
It's fine.
You're right. So...
Yeah. So, anyways, wait, now you made me lose my train of thought. So we got to sit down with her, and yes, partnership, but we literally formulated a goal and like, what did we call it? Not a mantra, but like a theme for our relationship. Like, what are we going to do to contribute to our community, our state, the world, like everything. So we got to break that all down, and it's all a personal plan, but it's also a business plan if you think about it, because yes, at the end of the day, you do need funds in order to support the life that you're trying to create for yourself and for others. So
Permeates all
that
facets.
was super powerful for me, just being really into business, entrepreneurship, and all that. So it was just amazing. And she's such an open book. When you're there, there's a reason why you pay the price that you pay in order to be in her space and in space of others. And on top of that, it's like a luxury ass retreat. Like, everything is
All
taken care of.
inclusive.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing.
Intentional food. Like,
Everything
yeah.
is for your highest good and your well-being. So
Have not
yeah,
been pampered like that. Like, even at like a resort. Like, no, this is.
no, it's next level.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
And just to add on to that, just to be, yeah, in her presence, and even in her close circle, right?
Yeah.
And to be able to learn from her, those that she learned from and confide in, to hear her story, which is super powerful. We'll let you guys hear that from her yourself, because that is a.
She, at this moment, she does not share her personal story out on social media. It's like very much you have to be there on the island.
Rightly so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once you hear it, it's there's a reason for it. So
Yeah, so we are one of the big takeaways. She actually had us try to figure out our life's purpose as individuals. Now, to build up on that, to build onto that, how do our life purposes align too, right? Yeah, we have our goals, and our dreams individually, but like whatever does align, we can facilitate that, and then that'll make our relationship stronger, our goal setting more achievable, right? And really, like, all of the information about love and finances that she was giving us, like, she's so chill. Like, Britnie is just,
such a human.
we're talking in a room like this. Yeah, just a good human, just like really chill, like really good vibes. And all the information that she shares with you and teaches you is so nonchalant, like matter of fact, like, oh yeah, all you have to do is this. Like, you always thought of other things like this. Why don't you think about finances and relationships like this? And I'm like, Britnie, you know what? You're making me feel like I never think. Like, that's not something I do, I guess, until I heard it from you.
Right.
Um,
And it's like, but now you know.
yeah, it's like scattered thoughts, right? We all have that.
Yeah.
We all have those scattered thoughts, and it's like it takes people like that have dedicated their lives and focused on things and looked at the right things to be able to catalyze those thoughts for you in your head, and then to be like, you're right.
Yeah.
I believe that too.
Yeah. 100%. So Britnie actually has a podcast that I will link below too, with Jerremy from the first retreat that we went to. So Svetlana and Jerremy are married. Britnie and Jerremy have a podcast together, and it's called Broke to Woke. They both have amazing stories, and like, I'm just going to be throwing so much at you that you should go listen to, because that's how a lot of this started. I started listening to podcasts, started reading books, started investing in myself, all different kinds of ways. And my goal, my mission is to share whatever I learn with you, whatever we learn with you, because I mean, I keep saying it, but it's in community that everything changes. Absolutely. So,
Boom.
yeah.
Oh, now that you said that, my new goal now is that if Svet, Jerremy, Britnie,
Also, Jerremy.
and Jerremy, if they make a new country, then I'm seceding from the U.S. Peace out. Citizen of their country, whatever
We
that
out.
is.
Yeah.
Deuces.
They're just incredible. Yeah. So, any final thoughts that you want to share?
Oh yeah, we learned the different dimensions of love It was a love summit.
That was cool.
Yeah.
So every summit, Britnie brings on a guest to speak there. And so the guest, Chauncey,
Chauncey.
I don't remember her last name, but she broke down so many things for us. What does she do? She's a
She's a
therapist.
Yeah, she's a
marriage counselor.
counselor, therapist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she does some other things too. But yeah, that was really, really amazing and clear.
Yeah, everything that she was teaching us, she broke down the different dimensions of love, like how there's, brotherly love, romantic love, the type of love that is possible. And to be honest, all those things I didn't really look at before. Like, to me, before that, love was comprised of 4 letters, LOVE, and it's something that I have that is deep for my significant other, and not only that, and I have different levels for family and friends, and my significant, and that's very general, right? Again, scattered thoughts, but she was able to break it down in such a way that was clear and concise, easy to understand, and really, and made it easier to implement, and analyze for yourself, because before that, Jheeno knew how to love Anna the best way he could, which was like this, right? Like maybe, this size. And then I realized after that, that really the possible love that we can have is like the circumference of the earth. Like, and that's a huge like polar shift again.
Yeah.
So you always think, don't get stuck in thinking that you know it all, or like you know most of it, and because that's when you're going to stop learning. And so once you break that barrier and you try to find answers, then you'll be surprised.
Yeah, definitely. And final thought, when you, because you should read this book, when you read A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson, I mentioned it in the beginning of the video, she talks about how pretty much it all comes down to we are, and the world consists of 2 things. There's love and there's fear. There's reasons why you're not doing things. There's reasons why you're blocking yourself. Yada, da, da. That's fear. That's a lot of like that constricted feeling. It's not good. Love feels expansive. Love is us. We are love. And so to express that, it's our job while we're here. So that's what we want to continue doing. And yeah.
Yeah, thank you guys. We appreciate you for taking the time to watch our video. And if you want any additional information, we'll include the link down below. I really, really suggest that you guys take the time out to look at it and see if it's for you. And to be honest, like for me, it's been leaps and bounds. It's really facilitated a lot of growth and a new perspective for me. And all thanks to my love right here. And my courage to not say no.
Yes.
And take a leap of faith. Yeah.
Yeah. So everything will be linked down below. The Divine Relationship Retreat, the Love Summit, or Aerial, BVI in general. You can find information there. I will link A Return to Love because you should have that book. Anything that you need to know that was mentioned in this video, I'll be sure to include. And you can also DM me on Instagram. I'm there all the time at Grow with Anna. That's the best way to get a hold of me. If you just have any other questions, I would love to answer them for you. Again, we're open books, and this is what we're meant to do. We're meant to share. So thank you for watching. I know it was a long one, but it's a good one. Bye.